Hello and welcome to Corset and Crown, brought to you by Buzzing About Romance.
This is Lady Sadie and Duchess Katie, also known as Books to Katie, and we are bringing you the fabulous author, Nicola Davidson. Hello, Nicola.
Hello, how are you?
It's really good to see you.
Thrilled to be here.
So, the first question I always want to know is, what was your first romance? What made you fall in love with romance?
My gateway to historical romance was Jude Devereux and Judith McNaught. And once I started reading those, it was like, I don't really want to read anything else. And then after I started, I found book authors like Judith Krantz, Hidden Away, and Susan Johnson. And then I was like, okay, not just romance, but hot romance.
Yeah.
Like super hot. And it was like, okay, that's what I want to write. That's my jam.
I love that. And Becky, that's what she cut her teeth on too, is the Judith McNaught and Jude Devereux and things like that. So got another classic fan over here too. So tell us a little bit about being an indie romance author. So what are like the pros and cons of it for you?
Well, I'm a hybrid author. Like I've been traditionally published and indie published. So I guess I can see it from both perspectives. And I think that there's so many benefits to going indie. I mean, in terms of the freedom to write what you really want to write.
Sure.
The heat level that I write, I mean, publishers aren't especially interested in that kind of heat level, especially with historical romance. So, I mean, I can go hot, I can go queer, I can go threesomes, and it's just whatever I feel like. I'm not, constrained to, certain language or certain scenarios or certain couples rather than a threesome or whatever. It's great.
And we as fans certainly appreciate that range as well.
I'm a big fan of your medieval menage pairings. I think those are just super fun. I mean, there's ladies with swords. I'm in. So you have written some like more shorter form novellas and full-length novels. Do you have a preference? Do you like to write shorter form? What is it that draws you to one or the other?
I don't really know. I think with the Surrey series, the first one, the reason that they're all so short, like the first one, My Lady's Lover, that was I actually submitted that to a publisher. And then it got to a point where it had been like 3 months or something and I still hadn't heard anything. And it got to the point where I was like, yeah, actually, screw this. I'll just publish it myself. And so I did. And so that's why that one is super short, because it was for a line that was supposed to be super short. And then after that, the other Surrey ones, they're a bit longer. But I really enjoy writing novellas, and I think, they're a really great way, especially if you're part of an anthology or a box set. They're a really good way for people to get to know you and get to know your style of writing. And, they can be, lots of fun too, because, you can get quite a lot in terms of a story and in terms of, the romance and, the cool historical stuff. But you're not going in depth to like a long period of time. It's more like a short, sharp, hey there. And and you can cram it with as many or as few sex scenes as you want. And my ones tend to have more sex scenes, and I'm like, bring it on, because I love writing sex scenes. They're like my favorite scenes to write. And so it's kind of like win-win.
Well, and there's kind of like an innuendo too. Like, I mean, you've got to pack as much as you possibly can into a novella. And I just read Her Virgin Duke and I loved it. Oh my gosh. I was just like, ooh, cannot read this fast enough. But it's just, I mean, there's so, I feel like when they're done well, they're just, you kind of want more, but then you're like, no, it was kind of perfect as is. I think that's the beauty of novellas, you know.
Well, I think they're great also because you know, if you're struggling with you know, time, or you know, you don't have, you know, maybe the you know, the brain capacity to actually do like a full-length book, a novella can, you know, it can give you that lovely hit of, you know, really hot sex and, you know, some, you know, nice squishy feely romance and you know, maybe a little bit of action, a little bit of tension or whatever, but you know, a couple of hours and you're done, and you know, you can get on with whatever else you need to do. So if you just need that little escape, or if you've only got a short amount of time before, you know, you've got to go to work, or you've got to pick up the kids, or it's your lunch break or whatever, you know, they're good.
I was just going to say, I love them. So I'm a teacher by day. And so sometimes I just don't have it in me, but I want that like hot, sweet HEA before I fall asleep at night at like 9 p.m. So I love reaching for a novella for that. So I totally get that.
For sure.
Do you have a favorite romantic hero or heroine you have written?
Oh,
we won't tell them.
We won't tell. We won't tell.
It's like asking me my favorite child. I think all of them have got a different thing that I love about them. Like, sure. Like with my my Scottish menage books, I really loved. I think it was the time period as well, like the Scottish medieval time period. But I love that kind of more raw character. You know, that, you know, you haven't gone into England where, you know, it's the Scottish Highlands, so everything's a bit more raw, a bit more, you know, kind of out there. You know, they're tougher, they're hard, they're, you know, they get things done. And it's before the time when English, you know, I mean, because I also write Regency, but it's a very different world, and you don't have that same strict society things about, you know, oh, you can't show an ankle, or oh, you can't go here with this person. Like, it's a lot more, it's a bit more free. And I think, yeah, it just depends on what mood I'm in, because sometimes I really like that, you know, that kind of, that longing, that repressed longing with the Regency that you can kind of do. But then sometimes, you know, you just want to go all out there and be like, hey, threesome in Scotland, woo! And
yes.
Yeah.
I can absolutely appreciate that. So are you reading anything right now?
Am I reading anything?
That you want to share?
I just finished a couple of contemporaries. I like doing I don't read a heap of historical, just because I get too much into thinking about the world and thinking about, you know, oh, if I'd written this, how would I have done it? It gets too analytical. So I like to have, and especially when I've just, because I just handed in a book recently to my editor. So I've kind of in that downtime palette cleanser. So I really like reading like a good paranormal or a contemporary. And I read a contemporary, and it was super, super, super sex crazy. It was like the characters, the heroine, she went to it was like a sex school, and she was learning about BDSM. It was like,
well then, wow.
Yeah, basically every chapter, I wasn't expecting it to be quite so, but like every single chapter she's doing like a different class at the sex school, and it's like she's learning different skills, and so it was like, okay.
I am in it now.
Well then.
What's the title? Is it something you share? I'm very curious.
The Venus
Katie's gonna
School.
go immediately get this.
The Venus School.
Okay.
Venus at school.
Hold on.
Googling now. So now that you've recommended the Venus School, which I'm wildly curious what, I'm going to make Katie read that first and then tell me if I should read it. What is a good book that you like to recommend to a new romance reader? I'm trying to entrance my friends into romance. So where should I start?
I guess it depends on what, they like what they're into in terms of tropes or, what kind of subgenre they like. Because paranormal, I like J.R. Ward. I like Shirley Gray. I really like the Wolf, like the shifter romances.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, I think finding the ones, because I like really, really hot. Like I like to read really, really hot books. And sometimes it's you can read an author and and it's a great story, but I'm always like, I just wish it was a bit, bit
Just that much.
Yeah. A little sexier, please.
Yes. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so there's been kind of a shift in romance in the last few years with more consent and an increase in diversity in characters, more feminist themes. As a writer and as a reader of romance, what do you think of that? And what do you hope that the future of romance looks like?
What a great question. I love it. I think it's magnificent. I want more diversity. I want more, I would love, erotic romance to be more mainstream. So it's not like 50 Shades of Grey where it was like, kind of titillating, because I do not feel that book was a great rep of BDSM or consent or,
even the romance genre, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are like, oh, you must love that because you love romance. And I was like,
that wasn't it.
It wasn't great romance.
No, because there's so many. You can always tell when you're reading a romance if an author has done their research, especially in something like BDSM. Like if they've got really good a trust between the characters, if they've got really good consent, if they've got, and it's pleasure for all. One thing that really annoys me when I read a BDSM book is if it seems to be one person just doing something to please the other person or the other people, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's pleasure for all.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I'd love to see more of that. In terms of diversity, just bring it. Bring bring the Black characters, bring the people of color, bring the queer characters, all over the place. Quite often we see people talking about tropes and they say, oh, this trope's been done to death, and it's like, has it though? Have we seen that trope with people of color in it? Have we seen that trope with a whole heap of queer characters? And it's not just about two guys or whatever. We want to see more lesbian romance, more trans romance, more bi romance, all of it, and that would be just great to see, especially written by own voices authors, because the gatekeeping in publishing has been such an issue for such a long time. And the way you get great rep in romance is by people writing their own story or writing about people like them. And you just get it just makes the tapestry of romance just so much more beautiful.
I totally agree. And I feel like if people are writing those stories, it's going to connect to so many more people who are just kind of sitting there waiting, like, I'm here, where's my story? You see the same white cis het everything every day all the time. So it's kind of like, regardless of if that's your experience or not, like, you should want to broaden your horizons as it is, if that's your own your own story. It's really nice to see when people are starting to take take the steps to move towards more diversity in every single kind of facet, because like I said, there's people out there waiting to read their own story on the page.
Absolutely.
I would also say, go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's the wonderful thing about romance is, there's so many different romance authors that there really is something for everyone. Like no matter what you're in the mood for. I mean, it could be, a shifter romance. It could be a contemporary small town. It could be a super hot historical or whatever. I mean, you can find, if you have a wee dig around, and, if you've got, great, podcasts, or, you've got great lists and they're diverse themselves, and they're always looking to not just highlight traditionally published authors, but also indie authors.
Indie.
Then you're showing the full spectrum of what romance can bring. And that's, what the great thing is about romance is that, there's a seat for everyone at the table.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, and you also brought it up, like, so I was a closet romance reader for probably 15 years because we raised readers in my family, but I was the only romance reader. And everyone's like, okay, with your Fabio books and okay with your bodice rippers and your mommy porn. And I was like, no, this is like legit stories. These are beautiful. And so for so long, I couldn't find enough to widen like the world of romance. And I was like stuck in the same Regency era with all these white authors and all these white characters. And I love that on the internet and on podcasts and the romance community has like just there's trope posts and there's diversity posts and there's like, hey, if you like this, try this. And I really appreciate that when authors put themselves out there and when readers put themselves out there, that we all get to grow with the genre and push the genre to show us all what love is and these beautiful stories.
Completely.
Totally agree. And I think the other thing is, one thing that I'm really loving more recently is the authors that are showing the Regency in its true light. Because I think for the longest time, and publishing has a lot to answer for in this particular thing in terms of how they portrayed the Regency era, and in terms of it being very, Austen-esque, very, very white, very cishet, very, very mild, if any heat. But the Regency era wasn't like that at all. I mean, that's like Jane Austen, wrote about her own experiences. And I mean, she was the daughter of a vicar living in a small town, like in a small village. So, I mean, her life experiences are going to be very, very different to someone, for example, in the aristocracy living in London, because they went wild. I mean, the Georgian and the Regency eras were wild. And I think that gets lost a lot. And then you have, a lot of readers who are like, they clutch their pearls when, you have a Regency with sex in it or with BDSM in it or, sex before marriage or anything like that. But that's what they did. That's literally what they did. I mean, there was a statistic, I think it was about, circa 1800, and a third of brides who walked down the aisle were pregnant. So it's like all these, saying, oh, everyone was a virgin, on their wedding night. It's like, the church says no, they weren't.
Awesome. I'm never going to forget that statistic. That's going to be in my brain forever. Thank you.
Yes. And I love it. Because that's the thing that I think gets my goat the most, when people decide to gatekeep and they're like, this isn't historically accurate. I'm like, is it though?
Like,
it could be.
The idea, I saw some reviews of another book I read, and I was like, they were like, this had a really diverse cast and there was a lot of sex in it. And I was like, okay, it's Victorian London. That was happening. Victorian London was a wild place. Lots of things were happening in Victorian London.
And were you there?
Time traveler?
No.
Yeah, like, yeah. Are you a time traveler?
That's my biggest thing. I'm like, were you there? No, you were not.
So I know you just finished up edits. You shared that with us. Do you want to share anything about your upcoming release? Any projects you have in the wings? What are you excited about doing yourself as an author?
Well, I'm just, the book that I've just working about to start edits on is it's called The Best Marquess, and it is the second book in the Wickedly Wed series. The first one was Duke and Darkness. And we have ourselves, it's a friends to lovers fake engagement story.
Ooh, yay.
And the hero has a secret sex toy business. And,
yes.
and they both read romance novels.
Oh,
I love it.
I'm very excited about this.
I'm excited.
Very excited. Awesome. Well, I have to ask because I'm dying to know, because the internet is full of rumors. Is there going to be another Duke I'd Like To anthology?
Well, I couldn't possibly confirm that there might be a second one coming later this year.
Of course.
Okay.
You couldn't possibly confirm
You could not
that.
do that for us.
Not about Dukes, though.
Not about Dukes, of course, of course.
Just switch
So
it
It
up.
may
Earls?
or may not involve rakes.
I'm gonna clutch my pearls and fan myself.
And it may or may not be hotter.
What?
Okay, the last one was really hot though. Like, you're setting up some expectations here.
I mean,
I can pretty much guarantee that we're all going to unleash.
Is it going to be the same group of authors?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so excited. I'm going to put in my pre-order now.
oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I mean, I feel like that's what I've been thinking about, wondering about, because the only person on that list of authors that I had read previous was Joanna Shoup. So it was new for me for everybody else. And I loved every single one of them. It kind of hit something for me with everybody's stories. So, oh boy.
I'm very excited. That was, so as I said, I was a closet romance reader, but that I think was my first, I think I had my first age gaps in there. I think I had, and I found all sorts of new authors because I hadn't read any of them yet. So that was super exciting. Awesome. Well, would you like to share anything else?
You
don't have to. No more secrets need to be divulged tonight.
Yes.
Oh, they're going to be this collection. It might not necessarily be all MF.
Ooh.
There might be a range of stories.
Even better.
Oh my
gosh. It just keeps getting better.
This just keeps getting better. Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
I'd love to hear it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And I await the next awesome release from you.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Thanks.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Oh my God, she's
Nicola.
so cool.
She's so cool.
And so cool.
Her Kiwi accent was just the cutest thing ever. Hopefully that's not offensive, but I was just like, oh, it's so, I love it.
She's lovely. She was really cool. And considering we have so little experience interviewing people, I feel like that went really well.
I think it went well too. And again, she was very gracious. She had a lot of insight and a lot of things to share with us, which really makes this job a lot easier because it's, she was able to bring a whole lot to the table and fill in all of the gaps that we left, so that was great.
All right, Katie, what are you reading these days?
I am actually reading 2 books right now. I'm reading The Wicked Wallflower by Maya Rodale. I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's got a series of some wallflowers, and it started out it's going to be definitely a fake engagement and like spinster ladies kind of thing, so it's a Regency. And then I'm also reading Alicia Ray's First Comes Like, her newest one. Ooh. So I'm kind of going back and forth between the two because I found that it's been very difficult for me to 100% stay on track if I'm not kind of mixing it up. If I read too many of contemporary or historical in a row, I cannot I cannot absorb it. So at least this way I have some, some spice in my life.
So
what are you reading?
I finally got to a stopping point inside Changeling. It only took me 15 books to get to a place where I could pause on that series. Holy moly, they're wild. Now I'm a lifelong reader. And I just got to read an advanced reader copy of Tempting Fate by Kerrigan Byrne, which I really loved. Cannot wait for that to drop on May 11th. And I am also reading Married by Morning, which is a friends to accidental Vegas wedding, which are all new to me. This is a new trope for me. So I'm trying it out. We're going to see how it goes. I'm not sold yet. There's a lot of talk of babies. We know how I feel about that. But there are tons of releases in May. So I'm also excited for that.
I can't wait for Mindy's.
Yes.
I'm like, Mimi, Mindy, we know who she is, but I'm really excited about the Banging the Bartender one. That's going to be.
It's so good.
Super. Of course
Good.
I've already read it. I can't
amazing.
wait. I mean, I gobble those up so quickly. I mean, it's just like a quick shot of this, all the sexy, all the spicy, all the hot banging. I love it. Yeah. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. I definitely had to fan myself a couple of times during that one. It's a good time.
Good. I like that.
All right. Well, I am Literary Illusions on Instagram. See you around.
And I am Books to Katie. Thanks for hanging out with us.